Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing for Thursday, the 5th of August. I'm Derek Clark. I'm joined this morning by Joshua Barrie. Joshua, how are you doing?
All well, Derek. All well. Ready for another day. What about you, mate?
Yeah, all things Rangers. Yeah, very good. Thank you very much. Busy day yesterday, following the aftermath of the Malmo defeat, and I think all eyes now on Ibrox. But before, of course, is a small trip to Tannadice at the weekend, which we'll talk about probably more so, I guess, tomorrow as we look ahead to that game. Other news surrounding Rangers, of course. Finally, it seems to be a saga almost. We talked about it yesterday in the morning briefing, me and Johnny, that Jordan Jones was close to finalising a move to Wigan Athletic. That move has now been completed. Initially, it was reported it could be a loan, but it's now a permanent deal. It's been confirmed. Jordan Jones has joined the Latics down in League One. What's your views on that, Josh? I think everyone that's got an interest in Rangers sort of knew that Jordan Jones wasn't going to get a look in this season, didn't he?
Yeah, I think we've spoken about him a fair amount, about how when he originally came to the club, he made a little bit of a splash and they had the sliding doors moment. But I just think the level of, same as Edmondson, the level of this Rangers team is very different to the one they were trying to break into in 2019-20. And Jones put, interestingly, he wrote a kind of farewell letter, as all players tend to do when they join a new club, and he spoke about that Legia game. And you know, if we hadn't made it into the Europa League that season, I know Ryan Kent was signed after that, so it was a big goal in the contribution of things, and Jones played a big part in it, and should be remembered for that. But that really is the only Rangers moment of his career, which is a shame, because I think when he signed, there was a lot of excitement around him. I think ultimately Rangers, by the time he'd returned from his injury, maybe got back on the manager's good side. Rangers had evolved to a point probably beyond what he could contribute to the team. So for his career's sake, I think it makes sense. And I think for the club's sake, we're quite bloated squad size. Makes sense to not have another loan and undisclosed, but that's money for Edmondson and Jones, two players who have been out the picture now for maybe 8-9 months, 6 maybe. So yeah, I don't think there's overly much to read into it, but obviously we wish him all the best.
Yeah, other fringe players that could possibly be moving out of Ibrox before the transfer window closes. You're looking at the likes of Brandon Barker and possibly Jake Hastie, you would say, Joshua. Yeah. Would you agree with those? And is there any others that you think their time might be up?
Yeah, I think Barker. Well, but I mean, Barker's probably the one. So I had Barker, Middleton, and Hastie down as the main ones that came to mind, and I don't think Hastie's ever really had an opportunity, and maybe just isn't fancied by the coaching staff. And I know he was back out on loan at Motherwell last season. Middleton has been played at left back. Again, I think he's a little bit of a victim of people will remember him in the first team and think, could he not still, if he was at that level, then why is he not now? And I think it's probably, again, still a situation of the level has risen so much in this Rangers team, and the quality across that front line has risen so much since Glenn Middleton was scoring away to Spartak Moscow. But he still, he still made a good impact at St Johnstone last season. I think scored in the League Cup semi-final, a great free kick. But he had been tried a little bit at left back. I don't know if there's a long-term plan there. I think he still has maybe 2 years in his deal. One, could be wrong. So I'd expect him to probably go out on another loan. And Barker's the interesting one because he at the start of last season was used quite a lot alongside Kent. You remember the first Old Firm game of the season, where him and Kent played in a kind of tandem, and Tavernier and Barisic sat deeper. And they obviously, I think he's the one that they obviously still see a lot of potential in, and they think if we could click with Barker, then he could be a really great player. But again, that's what two seasons now, and he's still to make a major impact. He was on loan. I think was it Oxford he was on loan at for the second half of last season. Yes. Yeah. So yeah, we do need to clear out in that area. The only thing I would say is if we do let all those players go, will we see another wide attacker come in? I know we don't play with necessarily much width in the forward areas, but if you get an injury to Wright or Kent, and Sakala's maybe playing more in the middle, then he's struggling a little bit for depth. I don't know. I mean, what do you think? Do you think those three players are goners?
I I think it's going to be very difficult for them to force their way into the side. That's no slight on them. They're just not the standard. I think. I touched on this with a piece on George Edmondson when he left last week. That he's a good player, but Rangers have just went up a level in terms of quality and calibre of players that they need now. And unfortunately for those individuals, they've just not progressed as much as the club have as a whole. So yeah, I think I can see them moving on before the window closes. A big hello to Roxy's got in touch on Facebook. Hi Roxy, good to have you. Your company this morning. Another story. I just want to touch on it briefly. I noticed that in a French publication, Joshua, the name of David Bates, formerly of this parish, been linked with a return to Ibrox, of course, now at Hamburg. He spent a time on loan at Sheffield Wednesday before, and he's been linked with a return to Rangers. Brentford apparently also credited with an interest in David Bates. I've got to admit, I've not really followed his career much since he left. I know he found it difficult to get into that Hamburg team initially. David Bates, for you, could you see him pulling on the light blue jersey once again?
Nah, I don't know what level he's at now. I've not followed his career either, but I don't think it's likely that we sign another centre back. And I don't see Gerrard as someone who looks back at the era before he was at the club and thinks, do you know what we need? A player from that defence. So I also think he did okay for Rangers, David Bates, and he kind of was thrust in there a random time, but I don't see the gain behind that, shall we say? He also got a couple of Scotland caps, I think, just after leaving the club, did he not?
Yep.
Yeah. So no, but Paulie Walnuts is asking about Morelos. Does he stay or go? Who would you replace him with? Seems the eternal question, doesn't it, Derek? I thought on what night was it? Tuesday night. That was a game where I know it's easy when players aren't in the squad to go, we missed him, because they're not there, so they're automatically better. But I did think we missed him, and I don't know. In these European games, if Morelos does go, we will have to adapt sometimes to playing without him, because although I think his role's evolved and how dependent Rangers are on him in Europe, he still has that. He still has that ability. I'm thinking of the Antwerp game where he was just, absolutely superb. So, I don't know what you think. I thought Itten did okay. I thought Sakala looked bright when he came on, but there's maybe still not an out-and-out option, a clear option if Morelos isn't in the European starting 11.
Yeah, there's a reason he's the club's European top goal scorer. He just comes alive. I think I touched on this yesterday as well. He comes alive on these nights. He offers so much. Itten done well the other night. I felt he led the line really well. He showed great strength and some nice little touches as well. But going forward, Morelos just offers that little bit extra. He's got that X factor, doesn't he? Where he just frightens defences, and he can just pull them apart on his own at times. So Rangers certainly missed him on Tuesday night, and we've all seen the videos of him running around a car park. I think everyone is hoping that he's back in the squad, ideally against Dundee United at the weekend, to get him up to speed, and then in the team against Malmo on Tuesday, because it'll be a massive boost for the team if he's back in that starting 11. In terms of does he stay or go, I think we have this discussion every season. I think sort of gone quiet in terms of clubs. I know Porto were sniffing about earlier on in the summer, but that seems to have died away a little bit. In terms of who would you replace him with, it's a difficult one, isn't it? There's nobody that sort of springs to my mind just yet. I know that Fashion Sakala has been brought in. He's not the same sort of player, but I'm struggling to actually think of a similar player out there that you would bring in and think it's an ideal replacement, unless you're spending a serious amount of money. Because, of course, they brought him in from HJK Helsinki, thanks to Jonathan Johansson and what have you over there. I think finding those diamonds in the rough are really hard to find. So it'll be. I'm not going to say it's impossible to replace him, but it's going to be really difficult.
Yeah, but I also think you look at Kemar Roof, and there's I know I guess it depends if you then go and play Sakala and Roof domestically together. But if you look at Roof's goal contributions last season, and he was injured a fair amount, and never really got lots of months tied together in terms of consistent minutes. But for me, if you've got a fit Kemar Roofe for a season, there's your central striker. Begrudged because I do like him in a two as well, and I think that Roofe and Morelos together in the Old Firm was just excellent. The third Roofe goal where he drops deep, comes back into the box, and I think that's a really nice dynamic, especially when you're playing against a deep defence domestically. Is if one of them can drop deep, the other one can retain the offensive depth. So I think we'll see a lot more of that. But I mean, I think Sakala will just take a little bit of time to adapt to the type of defences he's going to come up against. He's really highly thought of, and he might be slightly different to Morelos. But you also remember, by the time the league was won last season, Morelos had scored 10 goals. We still, and we really counter to the league without a 30-goal a season striker. So obviously having that on top is a bonus. But I think especially domestically, this side's evolving to have goals right throughout the kind of front six, if you're including the fullbacks and that. So we shall see. I do think if Morelos was to go, they would bring in another striking option, especially with Defoe now. Seeming like he's going to be on the coaching staff more. I know we've seen him in the grey overalls a fair few times already this pre-season. But I don't think it would necessarily be a straight swap. Maybe it's just the time then where you expect Itten and Sakala to go good. And Itten, remember, has only started, I think, 3 or 4 league games. For all he's been around a while, he's still not had a long run in the team. So maybe that's what he needs to get a few goals.
Yeah, the overall range by Castor, I can see that being the next range that's brought out, Joshua. I think that'll be the new.
I'd buy
it. Paulie Walnut says Nesbitt, a big fan of Nesbitt. I think he's a good player. But Morelos is just a cut above. He's the best, for me, best striker in Scotland, there's no doubt about it. Big hello to Andrew and Vicky getting in touch. Thanks for your company this morning, guys. Finally, we'll just touch on what the manager mentioned after the Malmo game. We never spoke about it yesterday, I don't think. Of course, the omission of Joe Aribo and Yanis Hagi, unavailable to the manager. Yanis, of course, picked up that wild challenge, of course, that forced him out of the game against Livingston at the weekend. Not fit enough to take part in the game. Likewise, Joe Aribo. Huge, isn't it, Joshua, to have these players back fit and available, especially for next Tuesday night?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a surprise looking at the bench on Tuesday and seeing how scarce the options were. I think the only offensive options off the top of my head was Hagi and Sakala, but I think Hagi was on the bench as much to coax the opposition into thinking that we had more options than we did, and that's obviously because we got 2 suspensions in the Europa League as well. Morelos wasn't back yet, but we didn't really have the options to change it, and especially in that midfield where I thought we weren't that well balanced, there was nothing Gerrard could do, I think, to change that. He didn't want to chuck young Stephen Kelly in, going by his comments after the game, because of the tough environment that is. So we do need that depth, I think, as well for Saturday. Dundee United away last season was a really tricky game. The 2-1 game where we scored from 2 set pieces. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I mean, I thought Hagi was excellent until he was, as you say, forced off. Didn't pick up an injury. He was victim of one of these horrific tackles. So, and I think Aribo as well. Presuming obviously Kamara won't be available for the game on Tuesday, and I think Aribo in that left central midfield role, especially in a game where we have to go out and win. Although he's got a few defensive discrepancies in my mind, I think he'd be a better balance there than Arfield, who looks more comfortable on the right. So, yeah, we'll see, but fingers crossed. And I think going off Gerrard's comments, he seemed hopefully to have a couple more bodies back. I think certainly for Saturday, hopefully Roof's back in there. And as you say, Morelos, hopefully he's back firing for both.
Yeah. Rangers on Tours got in touch and says what we lacked in the Malmo game was that creative spark in the middle. Yeah, I think those 2 players we've just mentioned, Joshua, will certainly add that if they can be involved on Tuesday night. There'll be certainly a massive if we can get them back involved in the team. Okay, that'll do us there. Thanks to everyone for interacting with the show again this morning. There's loads of great content coming your way on the Rangers Review website. A fantastic article by Stevie Clifford on there this morning, just looking forward to that game and the importance of the Ibrox crowd on Tuesday night. So plenty of great stuff on the website, and keeping in touch as well with our social media accounts on Twitter and on Facebook as well. And remember, you can subscribe to the Rangers Review now for only £1 a month for the first 6 months. It's an absolutely sensational deal, and support top quality journalism as we cover Rangers Football Club. Thanks very much for everyone for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow with another morning